Hi there, this is Lady Charlotte coming to you from beautiful Buda, Texas. And today we're going to do some glazing. See if I can get you up just a hair so it doesn't cut the top of my head off. Today we're going to do some glazing. The little trinket dishes have come out of the vis firing and they are ready to be glazed. And so that is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing some glazing. The trinket dishes, I have been asked to do them in a color purple. Purple is not a color that I normally have. So what I do have is some lavender, some very nice lavender, some Smoky Merlot, which is a kind of a deep purple. And then I have Cobalt. So, what I need to do is decide which of those I'm going to start out with. I think I'm going to start with one coat, only one, of the Cobalt. And you see I've got this little book that I'm picking up that I'm going to write it in. Trinket dish. One times Cobalt. Three times Smoky Merlot. And three times lavender. Now if I have done this right, this should turn out to be a nice purple. Well, we'll see. So first of all, we have to get the trinket dishes. Okay. This little dish needs a little bit of tender love and care. Let's get you around here where you can see what's going on. Okay, that's about as good as I can get you. Well, it was anyhow. I am the worst with the camera. Okay, we need these other trinket dishes. Okay, here's our first trinket dish. And one of the first things we do before we do anything to the piece, any kind of glazing, we take a sponge and we go over and we remove any type of dust, any particles that might have dropped off anywhere. Now, the bottom of this is a design. The bottom of this will also sit on the kiln floor. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a underglaze and try to do an underglaze with it. We hit the jackpot now. We found one. Now if I can get back to my spot without tripping over you on the tripod. Didn't quite make it, did I? That's okay. Okay. This little thing is going to be our underglaze. We're going to put underglaze on this piece on the bottom. And I'm going to do it in such a way that I can wipe it back. A nice little purple. Of course, the underglaze itself would not hurt the kiln shelf. I will be wiping it back just so that it really shows the design better than it would if I just leave it with the underglaze on. And what I'm trying to do now is get all the underglaze down into the areas that I need them in. Into the glaze catch. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes. Get off this brush. I try to make it a habit to clean my brushes as soon as I use them. Because you can get stuff stuck on them, you know, depending on what you're using it for. You can get all kinds of stuff stuck in them. Mainly using this one in order to do the actual glazes. But right now, we're going to dip this in the water. Looks like you've pretty well done your thing, and now I'm going to wipe it back. Now, you see there? Whoops. See there? It's my CW in the middle, and the little lines coming out from it. That's going to be the bottom. Okay? Now, we're going to start our process here of trying to make purple. Okay, we're going to start with the Cobalt. And we're going to do one. Well, we'll just admit we gotta have more fluid Cobalt than what we got. Cobalt got a little thick. Glazes tend to do that, especially if you haven't used it in a while. The glaze will settle to the bottom of the pot, and what happens is that the water in the glaze begins to evaporate. When the solid parts of the glaze go to the bottom, the liquid parts evaporate. And then when you open the glaze up, you've got a very thick glaze on the bottom, but nothing on top. So we just added a little bit of water. You can't see what I'm doing here. We just added a little bit of water here, and I am stirring it up with a whisk. I have whisks of all different sizes in the studio. Big ones, little ones, in between ones. This is one of my longer handled ones. It has a small whisker, but it has a much longer handle, so I can get it down into these bigger jars. Okay, we got that taken care of. Rinsing off the wire, the whisker. If I do it now, I know it's done. I'm just going to leave it up there in case any of these others need stirring. Okay, we had decided on one coat of Cobalt. Cobalt is a very, very strong coloring. It's this deep, deep blue. It's a beautiful glaze. You like blue, but it's very deep. What I'm doing here is just going over this very lightly with the Cobalt. Not trying to be fancy with it or anything, just trying to get the color down. And flip it over, and we're going to do the other side. Now we're not going to mess with the top anymore that we did. That's done until it's fired. The only thing we're concerned with now is the back piece. And the reason that I'm even putting the Cobalt on there is that the Smoky Merlot tends to be leaning more towards the red than the blue. So in the purple. So I decided maybe we ought to add a little blue underneath. And now we have it on both sides. One coat on each side. This lid doesn't want to cooperate and go back on straight. Okay. Sorry if I've jostled you a little. Here we go, back to where we are. Rinse and brush out from the Cobalt. And we're going to pick up the Smoky Merlot. And the Smoky Merlot, we're going to shake a little because I didn't shake it before. So we're going to check it for water content. It's got plenty of water. And we're going to shake it up a little. And whenever you're shaking these kinds of jars, be sure you have it screwed on tight. And on top of that, be sure you got a couple of fingers on the top of it. I can't find you. A couple of fingers on the top of it so that you can shake it up good. Otherwise, the lid could fly off, and that would be an awful mess. Now, we are doing the Smoky Merlot 3 times. So, this will be our first time. And I'm kind of dabbing it in there to make sure it gets down in there. Texture on this piece. I do hope this turns out. There are some colors that just don't work too well in the higher temperatures like from 5-6. I looked online for an actual purple cone 5 to cone 6 glaze, but there did not seem to be one. So I am using what glazes I have in combination with each other, hoping that eventually it will be a purple glaze. We just have to hope and keep our fingers crossed. I'm going around and getting all the little edges of these. I didn't do that with the Cobalt, but that's okay. Cobalt's just to give a reflective base for the Smoky Merlot. Okay. That was the first coat. And we're going to do 3. Now, the edge is dry enough. I think I can turn it over on the other side and get the back part while we're waiting for that front part to completely dry. to be real careful along the top, because there actually is a line that's supposed to keep the glazes from going underneath the piece, called a glaze catch. And I'm trying to be very careful not to get too close to it. And leave a little bit for it to do its job. Some of these glazes, and I'm not sure that this is one of them, but some of the glazes that I have will run really, really bad. And before you know it, you've got glaze all underneath your pot, down on your kiln shelves, making a horrid mess. This is the next to the last step in the process of making these trinket dishes. The very last step will be in firing them to cone 6. That will be our last step. I had said 3 coats on this. We've got a coat of Cobalt under there. We're going to have 3 more coats of lavender. I think 2 of the Smoky Merlot may be enough. And I'll change that in my book so that I know what I did. Sometimes when I am working and I make changes along the way, I don't put them in my book. So this one I'm going to put as 2 times. And the lavender will be 3. Ready to turn. I'll turn it over and we can do the bottom side. Now after we've done the bottom, let it dry before we do the lavender. Now, every time you put a coat of anything on your piece, when they come out of the kiln to the bisque firing, these pieces are very porous and they soak up the glaze. After you put 2 or 3 coats of glaze on there, they're not soaking it up so fast. So it's taking longer for it to dry. What you have here is raw materials that are in suspension within this glaze. They do this with a variety of different techniques. I'm not going to go into that. But needless to say, the stuff you get in the bottle is different than what will be on your piece, because all the moisture will have been drawn out of it, and you will have nothing but the pure pigment, and it is in a powder form. And that's what you'll have on your pieces after you put all the coats on it and they've dried. Now I could show you a couple pieces over here, but they're a little further reach. But they've been glazed and the glaze is dry. That's one thing you have to watch out for when you're moving things around that have been in the glaze. You need not to be touching where the glazes are, because if you do, that's going to, I think that was the last coat of our Smoky Merlot. So we're going to wrap this one up, put it away. Now the combination that I'm making here of Cobalt and Smoky Merlot and lavender is a combination of the Celadon glaze is the Cobalt. The Smoky Merlot, let's go over here. The Smoky Merlot is a Potter's Choice glaze. So, you don't need to worry about it. See here? Do you see that purplish cast it has? I think it's going to turn out right. But this is to there. Now we're going to turn this over. And we are ready to do the lavender. See the lavender? Lavender Mist. It's by Celadon. It is a C56 glaze. If you go looking for it, that's what you want. C56. And see, I almost, right there, almost took the lid off. I was shaking it, and I felt that lid just slide just the tiniest bit. You would be surprised how many of these things have come open and off and right into my lap, all over the place. So, I have learned over the years to be extra cautious of shaking my glazes. Okay. One. It may take us a little longer doing this dish to do those many coats, because as I said, they have to dry in between, and they're not as porous as they were to begin with, so they're not going to dry as fast. We may need a little help over here, a bit of assistance for drying, and that's okay. We have the helpers. We can do it. It's not a problem. I hope that the person these are intended for will be very happy with them. This is just your old, home hair dryer. I didn't buy it to dry my hair, I bought it to dry my clay, my glazes, and all those sorts of things. And it takes quite some time for the glazes to dry. So we're just helping it along a little. And this is just the first coat. But the first coat of the lavender is the fourth coat of glaze. We had one coat of Cobalt. On top of that, we had 2 coats of the Smoky Merlot. And that makes 3 coats altogether. And this coat of lavender that I'm doing is going to be the 4th coat. And I'm going to do one more coat, but I may not do 3 because this is really not drying well. In fact, what I will probably do on this one is to do the second coat. This is just the first coat. Do the second coat all the way around. And then wait. And go back in the house, do something, whatever. Just wait. Work on the side a little more. Do a post an update. This will be part of the update, by the way. Doing the glazing on these pieces. This is taking a really long time for this to dry. There's that temptation when you start to see the texture coming up and the pieces beginning to dry in spots. There's that temptation to just go ahead and do it. Hand it over. It's drying up. But it's really not a good idea. You need to wait until everything is completely dry. And that is especially true of your last pieces, or the last glazes. Some of the lavender onto the back. Hit it with the The lavender is a beautiful glaze all of its own. It's not quite purple though. It's lighter than purple, so that's the reason I've combined it with the Smoky Merlot and the Cobalt. Just to give it a little more oomph. So, see if we can get this part dry. Got a sticky over here in the middle. Now, it's almost ready. And you can see that there's a piece of glaze got dropped here on this foot ring and here. We need to get that off because that will make a problem later on in the kiln. Yeah, I think 2 cups is going to be all we can get on here too, because it's just not sucking it up. So this is our second coat. And it actually is a pretty thick coat that I'm applying, so I think we can probably say for sure that it's had enough coats. We're looking at 5 coats of glaze. Now I'm only filming this one today, and there will be the exact same thing will be done to the other trinket. This was a pair, and so when it's done, I'm not going to film it, I'm just filming this one. And I got one more coat of the lavender to put on the back. But first this has to dry a little bit. Can't even pick it up right now, it's so wet. And I'm afraid it's going to start to pick up and fill in on the texture. The texture won't be very noticeable. Since this has taken a little while to do, I don't think we need to be zoomed in for this one. Yeah, let's zoom out. Okay, here I is. Now, this is going to be it for today. I will, of course, finish all these pieces that need doing, and there will be some further glazing done on some other pieces, and I will do a video for those too. Right now, this is the only video I'm going to do today, so I hope you enjoy it. Good afternoon.